There's a person who comes to see me every 3 or 4 weeks, and she's been doing that for the last 40 years. Her pain and suffering dates back 70 years. She was born in Poland. She was part of the Warsaw Ghetto. As a girl, teenager, she was picked up with her parents and trained to Auschwitz, where her parents were killed. She survived Auschwitz. Indeed, she has survived several traumas across the years. And she sees me to gather a little bit of hope for the continuing anguish that she experiences. A few weeks ago, she phoned me to say she was not well and couldn't come to see me, but would I visit her? And I did. And when I was leaving, she asked me whether I would accept a gift. I said no gift was warranted. But she insisted. She said that when her husband was alive, she and he visited places overseas, and she brought back this object on one of those visits. It's been hanging on her wall, and she asked me would I take it. This plaque was precious to her. Some of you will recognize the words immediately. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. These words over several decades had kept her hope alive. Why should I take it from her? She said, these words are now written in the depths of my soul, and they will always be there. So I'd like you to have it. And there it is. There was a remnant in Pandora's box, remember? You know the story. The god Zeus was angry. Prometheus had stolen fire from the gods. So Zeus sent Pandora to earth with a box of creatures that would inflict horror and pain on human beings. Rheumatism, colic, gout for the body, anger, resentment, and envy for the mind. Zeus knew that Pandora would not be able to resist opening the box, and that's exactly what she did, and outswarmed all these horrific creatures. So she quickly put the lid back on the box, only to realize that she could only capture one back in the box, and that creature was hope. Hope. Hope was trapped in the box. One creature which would soften, perhaps, the pains of the other creatures. Hope did not reveal itself fully. For if it did, humans would have seen that hope comes in many forms and many colors. Back in 2002, Professor Snyder from the Kansas University, an eminent psychologist there, published a paper called Hope Theory, Rainbows in the Mind. And in it he spoke of high hope people and low hope people. In the way people embrace or disregard hope in their lives will determine whether they'll be high hope or low hope people. The spectrum of human hope. And he said it reminded him of the rainbow. Far back in Old Testament times, as you heard me read today, there was the symbol of hope in the rainbow. So I'm going to be alluding to the rainbow today. In recent addresses here, I have been attempting to develop a planned management of some of our well-known experiences. Last week, I spoke about the other side of depression. So rather than waiting for depression, as it were, to take hold of us, what can we put into our lives to avoid or to prevent depression? Next week, I'm going to be talking about a planned approach to forgiveness. Because if you don't have a planned approach, you can easily curl up in anger and resentment and bitterness because you don't know how to get in touch with forgiveness. But today I'm going to focus on hope. Of course, it's almost irrelevant until we've lost it. We might talk about hope as something good to have, but we hardly want to recognize what a treacherous creature hope can be. It can lift us up high on the wave and then dump us, abandon us. No hope. So in this address, I aim to take this disappearing, reappearing rainbow and see how we can get it to work for us, rather than talk in a way that's little more than rhetoric talk. I've started this process already in my Big Tent project. For those of you not yet acquainted with it, I've been running the Big Tent project for some 25 years, where I've been supervising kindergarten field officers to become effective therapists for 4.5-year-olds, kindergarten kids. We've started to build a model of hope for children who've lost hope at 4.5 years of age. Indeed, for all children who at several points across the lifespan will lose hope in themselves or in some aspect of life. Can we take preventive action a little bit in the same mode as Kenneth Ralph's book today? Taking early preventive action, proactive action. Because we know that little kids, as they grow up, will lose hope because the expectations of life will at some point outdo their competence. They'll lose hope because a crisis or a disaster will leave them somewhere out there stranded. Where? They'll lose hope because they can't reach their dreams, can't realize their dreams or reach their goals. They'll lose hope because adults give up on them, humiliate them, abuse them. Adults treat them like things and not as sensitive human beings. So we're going to try to recover the rainbow of hope for kids who have lost their hope or who don't believe in the possibilities of the power of rainbows. But what about us, the adults? In our SAGE group for people between the ages of 60, 55 if you like, and 105, I will be focusing on building strong rainbows in people who are centenarians, 100 years of age. Or if they're not centenarians already, who hope to be centenarians. Well, we all hope to be centenarians, as you heard today. We want to do that. So instead of being heavily critical or punitive with each other about whether we can have hope, whether we can live longer, we're going to try and develop workbooks, if you like. Workbooks to formulate ways whereby children and adults can engage in hope. I've developed what is called the Hope Project, H-O-P-E, helping older people engage, H-O-P-E. And in that, they're talking about hope. More needs to be done in this regard. More could be done. Of course, we need more people to believe in that possibility. How can we get past the level of talking about hope at a bland level, as something you have for a while and then you lose, how can we realistically think of holding on to hope? A little bit of hope. Or as we've called it, the gold rope of older years. Even when everything seems a bit hopeless, is there a little bit of hope anywhere? So the doctor says, you've lost the sight in your left eye. There is no hope of getting any sight back into that eye. Or the vet says, as he looks at your dog, I'm afraid nothing can be done. Or this young person slips in the examination that they really did expect to pass. But with that slip, the door closed. And that dream of the profession he or she hoped to follow is no longer possible. Then I read about Dr. Oliver Sacks. We've spoken about him here many times. An extraordinary person, author of many books, a neurologist. He's helped thousands of people with their chronic diseases and disorders and their endpoints. He wrote that book, remember? The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. And other books as well. But then, not so long ago, a knock came to his door. He said, 1 week I was in robust health, and the next week I was told I had cancer right through the liver. He knew at once he was face to face with dying, and he wrote, it is up to me now to choose how to live out the months that remain to me. I have to live in the richest, deepest, most productive way I can. He said, I will no longer watch the news or pay attention to the arguments over politics and global warming because they are no longer my business. They once were, but now they belong to a different future. Over the last days, he said at that time, I've been able to see my life as at a great altitude, as a sort of landscape, and with a deepening sense of connection of all its parts. I hope in the time that remains to deepen my relationships, to say farewell to those I love, and to achieve new levels of understanding and insight, and then I must die. And he did. Earlier this year, he died. Here was the rainbow of hope, illuminating several colours by which hope would make itself more vividly known to him and to us. So I'll now put before you 7 components, 7, of my model of hope training. We all need some training in hope. How to sustain our hope, how to recover our hope, how to live without hope, how to die with hope. What kind of hope? 7 ingredients in my hope model. 1, what are your beliefs about hope? What are your beliefs? 4.5-year-old kids look at other kids and say, I can't do that. I'm hopeless. He can do it, I can't. Or another will say, I'm practicing to do that because if I practice, I will do what they're doing. So he's got a little bit of hope here. Or they might say, they're doing that. I don't want to do that, but I'll do this. Belief in hope. One of the many colours of hope. Secondly, there is the behaviour of hope. You can disengage. You can sit in a corner and be morbid and be depressed. Or you can adopt the behaviour of someone who says, no, I've got a little bit of hope left for me. Hope. You can adopt the behaviour of people who have no hope, they've given up. Or we say, no, there is behaviour of hope. What will it look like when there is no hope? Or thirdly, The third piece of hope in my model, we need someone to boost our hope. Yes, hope can run out on us. But someone comes in. Who is it? Does it matter? Someone stands beside us for a moment. Someone says an encouraging word, or maybe even you heard a beautiful piece of music. Someone believes in you and boosts your hope. Alongside and independent of the boosters, we need a continuing bolstering of our hope. We all need to have things in place to keep our hope in place, to bolster our confidence, to bolster our morale, to bolster what I call, that F word, our fantasy of the future. Bolstering our hope. And it happens in many ways. My lecture on Martin Buber the other night, I thank you, those many folk who came to the lecture, but I quoted one part of the lecture. Listen to this. Here is one old prophet saying this, the rabbi. He says, when one person is singing and cannot lift his voice, and another comes and sings with him, another who can lift his voice, then the first will be able to lift his voice. That, said the rabbi, is the secret of the bond between spirit and spirit. There it is. Bolstering. Number 5, we need to revisit the benefits of hope. Sometimes we forget. We just brush it all past. The benefits. Hope is a positive emotion. How many journal articles and books are being written these days that speak about the importance of positive emotions to life generally, to when you're ill, to when you're facing a serious problem? Where are your positive emotions? I run a mood clinic, or have run several mood clinics about developing positive moods in your life. An important task. Hope makes us better company. Try walking around with somebody who's all the time saying how hopeless they are. Hope keeps us alive another day. That's its benefit. Hope is an agent of change. If I hope for something, it takes me to change. Hope is a soothing, consoling, reinstating of courage. Hope has many benefits, and we need to look for them. You see, I could put in a few extras. Hope brings a balance to our life. We can find one thing in our life, and we say, it's hopeless. I'm hopeless. 2 things, I'm really hopeless. But then we can easily slide that everything is hopeless. There is that global sense of being hopeless, but there are specific aspects of something being hopeless. We've got to watch that one doesn't run into the other. A balance is necessary. One of the important benefits is the balance. It is needed to see that though one thing may be hopeless, hope can be generated in other areas. Hope generates itself in other areas. Sometimes hope needs work to be done on it to get it into place. Other times hope surprises us. It's there. A little bit like Kenneth Ralph a moment ago. Suddenly he appeared. I wasn't expecting him. There he is right beside me. So we need to recognize that these surprises can happen. There's the biology of hope too, one of its benefits. You see, that the biology of hope embraces the development of the self, the emotional underpinnings of hope, the visceral expressions of hope in the human body. Wrote Professor George Valent of Harvard University, hope arises from the involuntary mammalian need to function effectively in the face of fear and setback. Deep hope is rooted in the heart. And there it is, strong in our cognitions, if you like. We feel that deep hope as people sing. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Hope carries that strong capacity to reduce anxiety. Number 6, hope is in search of bonding. Bonding with others. You heard it in the Buber story. Hope speaks of a goal. Hope speaks of an energy, a motivation. Hope speaks of pathways in which the energy is directed to reach the goal. Hope becomes a bonding of goals, pathways, motivation, and people. The bonds of hope. And number 7, when it is all said and done, when hope seems to be thin on the ground and thin all around us, life is changed by just a little bit of hope, coming even from unexpected places. And like the rainbow, comes in different colours. Sometimes in colours that we at first did not see. When the dog's life is over, it leaves a little bit of hope in the good memory of times past. That little bit of hope is a gift from the dog, a gift from life, if you like. And the gift says, life was made better by the bond between owner and dog. In the face of the worst circumstances and the worst situation, a light, just a little glimmer of light, or a different colour. And even if only for a moment, something brings hope alive. Something reminds us that hope comes in different forms. And like the rainbow, hope can come in 7 different colours. Believe in hope. Believe it. There's a belief about hope. There is a behaviour of hope. And that behaviour embraces the balance of hope and the biology of hope. There are the boosters. We need our boosters. There is the bolstering of hope. There is the bonding and the binding of hope. What was number 6? The benefits. The benefits of hope. And then remember number 7. That when everything else has gone, a little bit of hope comes just in somebody's presence. A little bit of hope comes in the flower on the table. A little bit of hope comes in the sound of some music. A little bit of hope. Would you please stand? Say with me, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And the blessing. Pause for the blessing on this day. May the God you see in all the colours of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep calling you forwards. May your God go with you and bless you today and always.